Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Uncivil Law. As always, hoping you're having a great day, and we're here to discuss some of the pushback I have gotten in one of my episodes of the Capitol Riot series, dealing with Eduardo, Nicolas, Alvear, Gonzelaz, and his participation in the events of the day. There's been some critique of me by some people who believe that this person is a good person, which maybe he is generally. I couldn't really speak to that. And I thought maybe we could just respond to some comments because we're getting some pushback from some of his fans and friends. So he has some fans and friends, so I guess that's good. And we can talk about that and talk about some of the stuff that applies to this issue. So, it could be fun. So let's just do that. All right, just move these things out of the way so that I can see what I'm doing, and move this, and move this, and move this, and switch. Okay, great. So we'll just respond to the comments that have so far been posted in this stream. This is episode number 42 of the Capitol Riot series that we just filmed recently. And so we'll respond to a couple of these comments from some of the people who are participating here. From Amanda Leo, which also means lion, incidentally. So there's that touch because this guy is about the good lion. So this person's name is Leo, which also is a lion. So nice touch there. Amanda Leo says defamation is illegal, to which I say, tell it to the FBI. I'm like, okay, well, we can have some legal education here on Uncivil Law. First of all, it's a bit of a mistake to say that defamation is illegal, because the term illegal could be understood to be a criminal thing. And of course, defamation is a civil law concept. There are a couple places. There is Louisiana, I think, still has criminal defamation. The idea of criminal defamation is suspect at best, and Louisiana seems to use it only when police officers are defamed. So they use it as a tool to oppress people in criticism of the government. But in the vast, vast, vast majority of states, defamation is a civil law concept, not a criminal law concept. So let's not conflate the two. Second of all, for something to be defamation, it has to be false. And it has to be a false fact, because things that are not facts can't be false. Opinion can't be false. Only facts can be false. So the question would be, what did I say that is a statement of fact that is false? And since all the facts that I was reporting on are coming from the FBI and their documentation, because I don't know anything about this guy other than what I'm reading. I never heard of this guy before. All I know is what I'm reading. So we're basically saying that the FBI has gotten the facts horribly, horribly wrong, which I suppose is possible. But what fact did we report that is wrong? Would you like to tell us what fact that we reported that was wrong so we could do a correction? We could even have a corrections. We said this, and what we really should have said is this. We apologize for the error. We could do this, editorial style. But no, we just want to say defamation is illegal without clarifying exactly what we apparently defamed him on. I'm not sure. Also from Amanda Leah, you're so freaking uncool and rude. Try defacing someone you know nothing about. That's called defamation. No, it's really not. See, we're using the term defamation, just not legally precisely, and that's why I'm here to help, because I'm a legal education channel. First of all, I don't know exactly what we mean by deface, but if you mean insulting or criticizing or critiquing or disparaging, then okay, but those are opinions, and those things are not defamation. To be defamation, it has to be a false statement of fact. It has to be a false statement of fact that's communicated to a third party in a non-privileged context. So this would definitely be a non-privileged context, although that's debatable too, because we can get into, so actually even that's not so clear. So this might be a privileged context because of something called the fair report privilege. So we can analyze all those elements. So it has to be a false statement of fact communicated to a third party in a non-privileged context. Well, communicated to a third party, you got that for days. Obviously, I'm not talking to the individual involved. I'm talking to the world at large. So you got third party without blinking an eye, no problem. Non-privileged context, you're actually going to have a bit of a problem with because of something called the fair report privilege. when you are reporting on something and you're reading, especially government documents, and you're just reading and you're just reporting on what's there, as long as you're reading it accurately and providing it accurately, then you're covered by fair report privilege. And that's one of the reasons that I have the document on screen as I'm literally reading it. So you can see the original material, right? So you know if I'm reporting it fairly. And if I make a mistake, or if I leave something out, or if I say something that's not precisely correct, the original's there on screen, so you can see what the original says. If I'm paraphrasing something, you see the original. It's right there, so everyone's clear exactly what I'm reading from, right? So I have the original on screen, so you can see if you think I'm paraphrasing, you can see what I'm paraphrasing against. If I'm rendering an opinion, you can see what I'm rendering an opinion against. It's all there for everyone to see. So the non-privileged context is actually going to trip you up because of fair reporting privilege. And then, of course, the ultimate problem is the false statement of fact. What fact did I say that was false? I don't know. So just merely disparaging someone or defacing someone or insulting someone are not facts. It is also not defamation. That's okay. We're here to help with the legal education on what is and is not defamation. Who are you? I'm Uncivil Law. Who are you? Karma will get you. Get your facts right. Hey, we aim to get our facts right. We like to get our facts right. If we have our facts wrong, please let us know. Please let us know what fact we got wrong. We'd love to correct the record. You're insulting his name. Yes, I'm insulting him. Yes, and therefore what? Therefore what? You're insulting me, right? You're calling me uncool. You're calling me rude. You're calling me a nasty little man, right? You're insulting me, and therefore what? And therefore what? You're a truly nasty little man. Okay. That's what we call an opinion? See? That's not defamation. That's insulting. It's degrading. It's not nice. But nasty little man, that's an opinion. It's not defamation. See how that works? If defacing someone you know nothing about, which incidentally, you know nothing about me, presumably outside this one video. So if defacing someone you know nothing about was defamation, see how this would work? You'd also be liable for defamation. That's how that would work. And you say, well, that's not fair because I'm basing my defacement off of your video. So mine is okay. I'm like, well, okay, but I'm basing my defacement based on the FBI's report. So how's that any different fundamentally? It's not. See how this works? Yeah, we have legal standards here. It actually makes sense. Okay. Amanda Leo continues to comment. Amanda Leo is, in my opinion, a bit of a stan here. So we got that going on for you. How can you laugh at this unfunny, mean bully? The guy knows nothing about what he's talking about. I think I know some things about what I'm talking about. I am reading the original document on screen. I know what the FBI is telling me. I am more ready in this particular situation to credit the FBI than this guy. We criticize the FBI too, when they need to be criticized. The FBI isn't perfect. In this particular situation, however, I'm more keen to credit the FBI than this guy, particularly since they have receipts with videos and screenshots and so forth and so on. So they're clearly not making it up. You know? This guy knows nothing what he's talking about. I think I do. I was directed to watch this for legal defamation. I don't even know what that means. Which is clearly what this nasty man is doing. If insulting someone you know nothing about is defamation, you just called me a nasty man. Are you sure that you want insulting someone you know nothing about to be defamation? Are you sure you want that as the standard, Amanda Leo? Because if you want that as the standard, you have a problem. This is good. Amanda Leo here. True. Okay, what did I say? I said, yeah, apparently we need to have a discussion about what defamation is. We do need to have a discussion. Amanda Leo says, truly? Yes, truly. Defacing someone and something you know nothing about is defamation. Aren't you doing that literally right now, Amanda Leo? Aren't you literally at this exact second defacing me, which you know nothing about me other than the video I did? And if you think that's somehow different than me defacing Gonzelaz based on the FBI's report, I don't know how. Right? How is that any different? I am defacing, whatever that means. I am defacing, I don't even know what that is. Gonzelaz. Okay. I'm doing it based on the FBI's report. That is my source material. You're right. I don't know Gonzelaz. I have no idea who he is. Never heard of him before. No clue what he's like in general. No clue if he's a generally nice guy. I don't know. All I know is based on what the FBI is telling me. You're right. I don't know him. But I do have pictures. I do have quotes from him. I do have things that he produced that reflects who he is, at least somewhat. So if me defacing him based on the FBI report is bad, how is you defacing me based on my video when you clearly don't know me? We've never met. How is that any different? How is yours not defamation and mine is defamation? The thing that you've fallen into here is what we call special pleading, or another way of putting that is what we call a double standard. It's like, yeah, we want to have one rule for this situation, another rule for this situation. This is the thing in law that people don't seem to appreciate all the time, is that the law tries and aims to be consistent across the board, which is really hard. But we try, we aim for it. We try to have a standard that's going to apply universally to everyone all the time. Rich or poor, white or black, whatever. We try to have standards that are clear and universal, right? So if your rule is, you've defaced someone you don't know anything about, therefore that's defamation. Are you ready to apply that rule to yourself? Because I'm ready to apply the law standard of defamation to myself, right? I can point out that you have defaced me. Is that defamation? Of course it's not. Because that's not the law. Nor should it be, because if it was, you have a problem. How would you like someone to deface you? It's literally happening right now as we're talking. Who doesn't know you or doesn't understand one thing about you? Self-awareness much? I mean, come on. Any self-awareness here when you're writing this? You don't know this man and you mock him. For what? What is he doing? What is he doing for you to mock? Well, let's have a discussion about what he's doing for me to mock. Okay. First of all, his fashion choices are deeply questionable, in my opinion. I understand fashion is personal, and someone might think this is the best fashion ever, which again is a valid opinion to have. You can think that this really is the greatest fashion of all time, and that would be a valid opinion. And even people, even like runway models or runway dresses or whatever, people don't have universal opinions about even like professional designers. Someone might see something Vera Wang makes and think it's the greatest thing ever. And someone else might see something Vera Wang makes and think it's crap. Because fashion's a bit personal too. So if you think that this is the greatest fashion choice ever, then okay. But one of the things I'm mocking him for would be his fashion choices, because I find them deeply questionable. The other thing I'd be mocking him for would be, smoking marijuana inside the United States Capitol, and, trespassing and disorderly conduct, and the other things that he appears to be guilty of based on the information that's currently available to us. There does seem to be some evidence that strongly suggests he was there. So, there's that. Those will be the things I'd be mocking for. Glad I could clear that up. What is he doing? What is he doing for you to mock? And what do you get out of it? Schadenfreude? Yeah, Schadenfreude. Apart from bad juju and bad karma, hope you sleep well. I sleep great. You're nasty and mean and very inappropriate. You're a bully, and why don't you deface your family members who you know? If I thought they were worthy of being defaced, then I guess I would. But none of my family members, to the best of my knowledge, none of my family members went to the United States Capitol and wore American flag pants and smoked marijuana inside the Capitol. To the best of my knowledge, no one in my family, extended or otherwise, is involved in this. If it turns out that someone in my family is involved in this somehow, I will more than happily mock them too. If it comes up, I'll let you know. It's okay. I feel sorry for mean, nasty people who have no empathy or consideration for anyone but themselves. Good luck, you need it. Okie doke. This is fun. I'm enjoying this. And see what we're doing now? See what we're doing now? Yeah. Now we're taking her comments, right? And I don't know her, right? I don't know her. I don't even know if it's the same person or not. It might be. Maybe it's an alias. Well, I don't know. So I don't even know who this is. I don't know her. And guess what we're doing literally right now? We're mocking her because we can. Because it's okay to have opinions. And those opinions can be negative. As it's okay for you to have opinions that are negative. See how this works? Opinions are protected. Freedom of speech is good. It's in the Constitution. Look it up. Oh, man. White Rabbit, who might be someone different, we're not sure. Thank you for spreading the word about Nick. Okay. He's such an amazing human being. We've been in contact with him while he's been in jail. He's shedding. He's shedding so much love and light to the inmates there. Just you wait. He's going to come out stronger than ever. Well, if he ultimately winds up better for the experience, then that's great. That'd be awesome. I hope he does wind up better for the experience. That would be a good outcome. Remember his name, and definitely try to have him on your show to hear his perspective when he's out. Trust me, he's a good soul. You know, if Nicolas over here wants to be on Uncivil Law, I will more than happily call him in jail. Just saying. If he wants to explain his side of the story, I'll be more than happy to call him in jail. And he can come on and he can explain his day to us. Just let you know. Leave a comment in the video. If he's interested, we'll call him. He can come on the show. He can talk to us from jail. Heather McDonald then responds, I'm a nice person, and I disagreed with her last election, but I never stormed the Capitol to try to disrupt things. See? That's good. It's good, Heather. This is good. Now, I might not agree with your opinion, right? But it's good. It's okay to have an opinion. That's legal. Less legal, storming the Capitol. White Rabbit responds, do what you feel in your heart to be right, for you'll be criticized anyway. Well, I'm literally doing that as we're speaking, so there's that. I'm doing what I think in my heart is right, which is mocking the shit out of Nick here. You'll be damned if you do and damned if you don't. Well, that's for sure true. I get criticism no matter what I do. I've learned that lesson. You're 100% entitled to your opinion. See, that's right. That's the right legal answer. You are, in fact, entitled to your opinion. That's how the law works. It's great. I'm hoping that maybe you can see the other side of the story one day. Okay. Let us know what the other side is. Would love to hear it. Coming from an area of the country where weed is legalized, it seems pretty low on the scale of being criminal to me. Okay. Well, fair enough. And also, incidentally, for whatever it's worth, he wasn't charged for the marijuana. It is not in the indictment. Now, that isn't to say maybe it won't come later. Maybe it will. But the federal government has not charged him, or anyone else, to the best of my knowledge, with any drug violations. I guess they have better things to do with their time, which is probably true. So, apparently the FBI and the Department of Justice agree with you. They appear to agree with you that weed is lower on the scale of criminality, because apparently up to this point they don't care. I think we need to start asking ourselves, is that a crime that's justified in parts of our country that have it legalized? That's a good question. That's a really good question. Maybe we should change the United States law on this issue. That's a very valid question. Maybe we should change the Controlled Substances Act. Maybe marijuana shouldn't be Schedule 1. Maybe it shouldn't be illegal in states where it's legal by state law. Maybe the whole thing has been a bit of a disaster. These are very good questions to ask. But at least for the moment, he's not being charged with anything related to the marijuana, so it's a little bit off point. But, we can definitely have a discussion about the Controlled Substances Act. We can definitely have a discussion about whether marijuana should be on it at all. It should definitely not be Schedule 1. That's insane. It doesn't even make sense by its own legal definition. See, that's where I get tripped up as a lawyer, because I look at this legally. It doesn't even make sense on its own legal definition. For something to be Schedule 1, and marijuana is Schedule 1, for something to be Schedule 1, by definition, it can't have any medical use. And I'm not a doctor, but concluding that marijuana has no medical use seems a very difficult conclusion to draw based on the information that's currently available. So even if marijuana should be on the controlled substances list, it shouldn't be Schedule 1 because it doesn't meet its own definitional terms. And that's bad. I like things that are logical, right? So we should do one of two things, presumably. We should do one of two things. We either need to redefine what Schedule 1 is so that marijuana would fall within the new definition, or we need to move marijuana off the list. You can't have marijuana within the current definition. It doesn't make any logical sense. And I like things that make logical sense, right? I'm conservative. I like boxes. And the marijuana does not fit in this box. And it frustrates me. So we either need to redefine the box or move marijuana out of the box. One of the two. Free Nick, good lion. No. Pam D says, I believe the strain was colorblind Kush. Okay. Well, Pam thinks it was colorblind Kush. So anyone who has experience with marijuana can tell us about their comparative experiences with colorblind Kush, I guess. Mark Valdez says, please take the time to research his movies, with an apostrophe, and what he's about. I don't believe any of the haters have done this channel any good, ill-informed. And then I responded, apparently one of the things he's about is smoking weed inside the United States Capitol building, which I thought was a pretty nice rejoinder. I do wonder how many of these people think the police did the right thing by backing down the face of a large number of rioters. Hold the same opinion about police standing down during the Portland riots. Yeah, I'm with you on that, man. I mean, the double standards and the hypocrisy, both from the right and the left on this, is real. It's very real. The way that members of the right are all set to criticize Antifa and BLM and their rioting, and not ready to criticize this rioting, and for that matter, BLM and Antifa criticizing the shit out of this rioting, but not criticizing their own rioting. The double standards, special pleading is very, very real. Fortunately, for me at least, I've had a pretty consistent standard. Rioting is bad. Let's charge them all. Now, as I pointed out in my other video, that doesn't mean that they're all equally bad, because crimes have different levels of badness, right? We have crimes that have different tiers and different levels of severity. So it doesn't mean they're all equally bad. And I think it's possible to argue with a straight face that all rioting is bad and all rioting should be punished, and some rioting might be worse than other kinds of rioting. For example, merely trying to riot that would interfere with a small business is bad. Rioting to overthrow the United States government is more bad, or so I would argue. I think that's a consistent philosophical position. The young man you're talking about is a wonderful human being. Okay, well, he might be. He may have gone into the rotunda, but he didn't do any harm. Okay, well, he's not being charged with doing any harm up to this point. He hasn't been charged with any act of violence. We read the indictment. So far, he's been charged with trespassing and disorderly conduct. Essentially, in so many words. I mean, that's not the formal definition, but that's basically what it boils down to. So, he didn't do any harm. Okay, well, he hasn't been charged with any harm. So what are we even talking about? You should be looking for the persons that did harm. We're looking at everyone. As you might have noticed, this was number 42 in an ongoing series. We're looking at all the people. All of them. You just go with the flow to get likes. We're discussing the Capitol riots. Nick is a very good person and very talented. Maybe he is a good person and talented. Good people can do bad things too. Maybe he is a good person, maybe he's talented. Never claimed otherwise. Did say that there seems to be some evidence that suggests he may have been trespassing and there might be some evidence of disorderly conduct. Victoria says, our guy Nick is the kindest soul you'll ever meet. Okay. I'll take your word for it. He's very, very kind. Excellent. Does that in any sense impact the legal analysis? No. I don't remember meanness being an element of a charge. Soon enough, more and more people will be lucky enough to witness it. Okay. An immense amount of lies were spun by the media that day. It doesn't take up a lot to dip up the facts of what actually happened peace. Well, not for nothing, but we're not basing this series off of media reports. Right? We're basing it off of what the FBI is willing to swear to in an arrest warrant. Now, that doesn't mean that it's all perfect. And the FBI is God. So, but it does suggest some reliability. And we can look at this and be like, and also the FBI has thoughtfully provided receipts again. So we are in some instances, if not many instances, able to judge this for ourselves. For example, can we conclude reasonably that Nick over here was trespassing in the United States Capitol? Well, we saw a picture of him inside the rotunda. I'm like, that's the rotunda. I know it's the rotunda. So evidence looks pretty good. So we are crediting the FBI not only because they're the FBI, but because they thoughtfully provided receipts. It doesn't take up a lot to dig up the facts. Well, I see a picture of him in American flag pants at the Capitol, so that's a fact, apparently. All right, so this is an interesting comment from Victoria that we can talk about in a legal sense that might be interesting. Because we can talk about this in view of entrapment, too. So this will be an interesting legal discussion we can have. See, we're also learning things legally here as we are mocking and responding to comments. It's nice. So Victoria says, being let in somewhere doesn't make you a criminal. The Capitol is a very highly secured building, not to mention at the time there are many high-ranking government officials voting, including the vice president. Do you realize how hard it would be to break into a building like this without it being set up? Especially on a day like that. Please look into the security used and how it's damn near impossible to get in if they didn't really want to. They were let in, it was supposed to happen. Okay. So Victoria here has some criticisms of the security of the Capitol building. You know who else has criticism of the Capitol building? The entire United States Congress. They're conducting hearings on this right now as we speak. And they are also very, very critical of it, as you would expect. So it's possible for it to be a setup, I suppose. It's also possible for it to be incompetence. And we tend there's a good rule that we should look to incompetence before malice. So as the primary reason something's happening. So yeah, on a normal day, breaching the Capitol by a person would be somewhat difficult, because on a normal day, if a person tried to breach the Capitol, there's more police there and more security there and all the rest of it to prevent that from happening. For whatever reason, the security that day got completely flat-footed. How that happened, we're looking into as we speak. Does it mean that they purposefully did it? I mean, no, that's not the necessary conclusion. I suppose it's a possible conclusion, but we don't necessarily have to go to grand conspiracy. We can just go to someone effed up. It makes the fewest assumptions, in a little Occam's razor way. Someone screwed up versus grand conspiracy. Yeah, that seems plausible to me. It seems more plausible to me. Now, let's talk about this being let in thing, because this is going to be a defense from a lot of people, I would imagine. A lot of people are going to argue that they were let in, or the police just stood by and didn't try to stop them in any way, and so they were basically invited in. That's going to be the argument. All right, let's talk about the law standards here that apply. All right, so there's a couple things that we need to talk about here from a legal point of view. So principle number one that we can talk about from a legal point of view is that the police don't have to enforce any particular law at any particular time. It doesn't make it not illegal, but the police don't necessarily have to intervene. And there might be a whole lot of reasons that they are not intervening. Just to bring a random example to light, suppose a large group of people is robbing a convenience store, and suppose a single police officer comes upon this scene. Could the police officer choose to police officer choose to intervene? Sure. Could the police officer say, well, I'm completely outmanned in this situation, so I need to call for backup or take some other course of action? Yeah, that also might be a reasonable course of action depending on the circumstances, right? So, the police don't necessarily have a duty to intervene if criminal activity is necessarily occurring. And particularly in a situation like this where they're vastly outnumbered. Because, first of all, they literally can't intervene in every situation because they are completely outnumbered. And second of all, every time they intervene in any given situation, it means that police officer is now tied up with that particular situation and is not now dealing with other problems that might be more severe. So it's an issue of triage, if nothing else. Right? So it's an issue of being outnumbered. It's an issue of dealing with more severe threats. Why can't you arrest someone on the scene? Why weren't more people arrested on the scene? More people weren't arrested on the scene because when you arrest someone, the police officer has to leave. The police officer has to take the person somewhere. That means there's one less police officer there. Now, that's a problem in this particular situation. So the police don't necessarily have to intervene, and their tactics might be completely reasonable, given the fact that someone effed up and didn't have enough security for the day. Number two, let's talk about entrapment, because that'll be another thing that they're going to try that's going to completely not work. So the other thing is going to be, we were entrapped because the police just stood by and let us break the law. And the answer to that question is, the police just stood by is the answer. That's not entrapment. If the police can let you break the law and then arrest you for breaking that law. So to give an example at random, let's suppose that I don't know. There's a march. There's going to be a march in progress. There's a march in progress, and the route has been planned in advance, and there's a pre-approved path for the marchers. And let's suppose that the law in the relevant jurisdiction is that if you are parading, without a permit, that it's illegal, which sounds pretty plausible, right? So, the route that they got approved was a longer route, and there's a shortcut, maybe across a bridge or something. I'm having to make this up off the top of my head, so give me a break here. So let's say that there's a shortcut to where they ultimately want to be across a bridge. And let's suppose that the leaders of this group decide, you know what, we're just going to cross the bridge. And they were even warned in advance, if you cross this particular bridge, it's illegal. You can go this other way, but not this way because of traffic management or whatever. Let's suppose that there are police officers there at the bridge. Let's suppose there's a lot of police officers there at the bridge. Can the police officers just stand by? Yes. Can they just stand by as they watch you cross the bridge? Yes. Can they then arrest you for crossing the bridge? Yes. You can't say, but they just let us in though. They should have stopped us. They should have said, you can't come in here. No, maybe they should have done that, but they don't have to do that. Right? They can choose to watch you break the law and then arrest you for breaking the law if they're so inclined. So they're going to try this entrapment thing of, oh, we were entrapped because normally we wouldn't break the law, and we were entrapped into breaking the law because the police just stood by. And the legal answer to that is the police just stood by. Right? They didn't encourage it. They didn't do anything to solicit you. They were passive. Being passive is not entrapment. So, no. So, yeah, they're going to try to say, well, and they're going to try to say, oh, the police were just inviting us in. Really? Did they actually say, right this way, sir? Did you ask them, can I enter? And they said, yes, you can. Did they do that? Did you ask for permission? Or they just were standing by as you were saying, let's storm the Capitol? I think you have legal problems, is my point. You can try the entrapment thing. You can try the we were given permission thing. It would not surprise me if you're not able to present it to a jury, because they're not legally cognizable defenses, right? Juries determine facts, not law. So you probably won't even get, I'll win because I'll be able to present this to a jury. You probably won't even be able to present it to a jury. It's not legally cognizable. You can't argue law. You can't argue things to a jury that are not legally cognizable. The judge will probably stop your entrapment argument from ever being heard by the jury. They'll probably stop your we were invited though argument from ever being heard by a jury. Now, I don't know if that's going to necessarily happen in every case, of course. And some judge might allow it, of course. But it wouldn't surprise me in any way if it's disallowed, because they do not, on first blush, appear to be legally cognizable, in my view. So, good luck with that and all, but yeah. Yeah, the police stood, if your argument is the police stood by and did nothing, I don't see a judge allowing that to go to a jury. I don't see that working. If you have something more specific, like they actually invited us in or said it's okay to enter, or you actually got some kind of permission, that'd be helpful. Yeah, that would be good. That would probably go for a jury. The U.S. attorney on that one's going to want an offer of proof, though. So you're going to have a trial before the trial, because the U.S. attorney is going to want you to present some evidence of that. So you're going to have the trial before the trial on whether or not you can even argue that. And if you don't have enough evidence, they won't let it here before the jury either. Yeah, the U.S. attorney is going to want an offer of proof on that one. You have no clue what you're talking about. I have some clues of what I'm talking about. You're trusting an honest system. The FBI and DOJ do screw up. It definitely happens. We have definitely, from time to time, been critical of the FBI and DOJ. Yeah. In this particular instance, we're less critical of them because of the receipts. So we don't necessarily have to trust them because receipts. The receipts appear to support the FBI's narrative. Nick has the best soul and heart of anyone I've ever met. You're sadly mistaken about this kind soul. And then they say, by the way, don't sing again. And then I said, I have a song in my heart and I must share. So, yeah. Okay. Peripheral Vision says, it takes a... Hold on. Hey, YouTube, stop. Good YouTube. Come on, scroll. Scroll. Okay. Peripheral Vision says, it takes a very shallow little man to judge and insult. You achieved that status flawlessly. If you knew Nick, you'd never make this excuse for a video. And then someone pointed out the obvious. Eduardo points out, thank you for demonstrating hypocrisy so flawlessly. By your very words, you're a shallow little person for judging Uncivil. Right. So, points to Eduardo for pointing out the conflict here. It's like, yeah, if it takes a very shallow little man to judge and insult, then, you know. Are you sure that's the standard you want to have? Are you sure that's the standard? Because if that's the standard, my friend, you know, you have a problem. Surely you wouldn't have rules for me and rules for thee, but not rules for me, right? Surely you wouldn't try to have different standards for different people when it's convenient, right? You're a consistent person. Freedom, he says, having just participated in a riot. Tricky Subject says wrong. So misinformed. I don't know. I think we're reasonably informed. Did you even watch the video with him both show in the middle of the riot and saying freedom? I mean, it literally just happened. Are you some kind of gaslighting jerk? And then they said, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, we saw those things. We evaluated those things, you know. Good times. Also, you mock him, but his channels had more subscribers than yours before it got yanked. I don't understand this comment. If his channel has more subscribers than me, it means that we can't mock him? I don't get it. Presumably, well, I actually know for a fact, because I can see it because of my plugin here. Yeah, you have 7 subscribers to your channel. So if mocking someone who has more subscribers than you is bad, I have more subscribers than you. So again, what's the standard here? What's the rule? Let's try to have some consistency. The FBI doesn't indict people to the chat, by the way. The DOJ indicts people. The FBI arrests people. The DOJ indicts people, if we want to be formally about this. Free Nick. If you only knew the light of this man, I hope you're not as shallow as you sound. And then I said, I hope you don't use insults to others as a way to puff up your own ego, which I thought was a pretty nice little rejoinder. You know. Free Good Lion Nick. He is a wonderful person. If you knew the full story, you'd see there's no violence in Nick. He hasn't been charged with any violence. Why do you keep mentioning this? He hasn't been charged with any act of violence. There's no evidence of violence that we saw. No one is accusing him, literally no one is accusing him at this point of anything involving violence. It literally has not come up. He may have said storm, but it was more of a brisk walk. Not violent or destructive, whatever, when he was in there. Okay, he hasn't been charged with violence or destruction. What are we even talking about? I hope he does come on. You guys need to meet him and not take CNN's view of the situation. We are not taking CNN's view of the situation. We are not taking CNN's view of the situation. We are taking the FBI and the grand jury's view of the situation. This is not CNN. If you knew our friend, you'd be in a blessed place. Okay, well, you know, that's good. Nick is a positive, beautiful human being. He had no ill intent. Okay. Good. I don't believe he's been charged with any crime that requires ill intent. To the best of my knowledge, he is not. Has he been charged with something that implies a ill intent? Not that I'm aware of. Although he did enter the building, so there's something there. I mean, there's some intent to enter the building. You know, during an ongoing riot. So, you know, there's that. So, okay, so that's the end of all the comments. That's the end of all the comments from this video when we had lots of fun. We had lots of fun dealing with all that. So now I'm going to deal with the chat for a while and see if, you know, things have blown up in the interim here. So let me pull up my Discord and see if anyone asked any questions along the way. Let me see if there were any questions. Joseph said, I never appreciate all the why you place docs on screen. Yeah, I place them on screen so you can see the original. So you see exactly what I'm reading from, exactly what I'm quoting from. So if I make a mistake, or if I'm paraphrasing, you can see the original. And so then you know what the original says. Just a Girl said, it's only wrong when the other side does it. Or I can do it because XYZ did. The prevalent thought process. Yeah, there's not necessarily a lot of ideological consistency here on some of these arguments. It's okay for me to deface you, but not for you to deface him. Presumably because I'm a bad person, but you don't know what kind of person I am. You know, because you don't know me, right? Joseph says, love what you do, but is this a worthy endeavor? The reasonable people who follow you don't feel the way the haters do. Are the haters going to listen to you? Nice to try, I guess. No, I thought I'm not responding to justify myself to them. I just thought it was amusing. I thought these comments were amusing, and I thought I'd respond to them because it entertained me. So, you know, I'm not apologizing for anything I said because, you know, I think I was pretty on point. Dogbert says, how do you deface a person? It doesn't make any sense. I don't know what that means either, Dogbert. I got nothing to offer you. Crayola said, keep the beard, Kurt. It's a good look for you. I'm probably going to shave the beard pretty soon. I usually only keep it for short periods of time, and it's getting a little stale. So I'll probably wind up shaving the beard pretty soon. Dogbert said, off-topic question. Can May issue licenses be constitutional? Don't know. We haven't had any ruling on that issue. But probably not. Kepper says, isn't character a factor in sentencing? Yes, it is a factor in sentencing, not liability. Right. It's a factor in sentencing, but not liability. You know, some things are brought into court to prove liability, which is to say your guilt or your, you know, whatever. And then some things are brought in for damages, which is, you know, so yeah, character would be relevant to the damages, to the sentencing, but it's not relevant to the underlying liability. Except in some narrow circumstances that do not appear to be relevant here. Capertano said, what about the federal government inviting me into a federal building and protest there? Yeah, good luck. If they actually invited you, then yeah. But can it be a good defense for someone who wasn't directly involved? Yeah, if they literally invited you, and it would be an outstanding defense. But merely standing by is not inviting. You know? I mean, just think about it. Just think about it if it's your home, right? Just think about it at your home. Does leaving your door open and unlocked, does that create a legal invitation for anyone to enter your home? If your garage is open, is that an invitation for anyone to enter your garage? If you are if you are in your front yard and the garage door is open or the front door is open and someone starts walking onto your property and you don't do anything and they walk into your garage or they walk into your house, does that mean that you created an invitation? Right? No, of course not. That's not how that works. Just because the garage door is open doesn't mean that you can enter. That's lame. Just because you're there and you don't say anything in objection does not permission create. That's lame. I don't think you'd like it very much if your door was open and someone just started to enter in and be like, well, I was invited. That's not how that works. So if you were literally invited, that'd be an outstanding defense. If the garage door was open, not so much. Patrick Mulcahy says, what has been worse, beauty lawsuit, anime lawsuit, or Capitol riot for the comments attacking you? Probably Vic Mignogna is probably the worst. Yeah, those are probably the worst. The Vic Mignogna people are probably the worst. Yeah. The president is representative of the federal government. That's true. True enough, yeah. All right, so let's see what's going on here. Yeah, so, just try to think about this from various other viewpoints. And, so let me just scroll up in the chat and see if there's anything else here. Who did it better, me insulting myself with my actions or others commenting on my actions? That's pretty good. Love your channel. Oh, wait, I'm biased. Yeah, I know. I love the haters, but they're giving you hella engagement. Yeah, I mean, maybe he is a great guy. Maybe he's a kind soul. Maybe he never harm a fly. He's not been charged with any of those things, though, so, What's with you and Nick and know nothing about law? I mean, yeah, some people seem to think I don't know anything about law, even though I patiently explain them. We can talk a little bit more about defamation, too, just to have our defamation roundup, because we never really got into it. So, let's just go through defamation again, because we can talk about what is and is not defamation, so we can learn something legally, right? So we have defamation. Basically, is a false statement of fact communicated to a third party in a non-privileged context. All right, so let's deal with, and then also there's a mental state element, and we'll get to that at the end, because it's not a strict liability thing. This is where public figure, by the way, comes in, is in the mental state element. But let's deal with the act elements of it, and then we'll deal with the mental state elements, right? All right, so we have the act elements, false statement of fact, communicated to a third party, non-privileged. All right, so what is a false statement of fact? Well, a fact is something that's capable of being proven true or false. Can you prove it as true or false? Is it something that's provable in theory as true or false? And if not, then it's opinion, right? So then there's borderline cases, and that's where things get fun. But yeah, you have to say something's capable of being proven true or not true. Like, so a statement of fact would be, for example, saying he was wearing American flag pants inside the rotunda of the Capitol. That's a statement of fact. It's capable of being proven true or not true, right? At least theoretically, it's capable of being proven true or not true. He was smoking marijuana inside the rotunda. That would be a statement of fact. It's capable of being proven true or not true, right? And we have some evidence that would support these factual propositions. They may not be true in some way, but it certainly looks like it based on what we know right now, right? But those would be statements of fact. So first of all, it has to be a statement of fact. It has to be something that's being capable of being proven true or not. So there's that. And then, of course, it has to be a statement to another, which very rarely comes up. You can't defame a person to their own face, is basically what that means. So if you and I are together, I can make up lies about you and communicate them to you. That's not defamation, because I'm only talking to you. So, yeah, that doesn't count. So, yeah, it has to be someone else. Anyone else has to be communicated, but not to you. And then we have the idea of privileged context. Well, what are privileged contexts? We've discussed some of those. We discussed the fair report privilege. What is the fair report privilege? Well, as the name implies, it's when you fairly report on something, and it applies probably strongest to government documents. So if you have a good example of this would be when John Oliver did his thing on Murray Cole. And he got sued for that in defamation. And right, but he's covered by the fair report privilege because he was working from government documents. And so he can fairly report on what those documents say and not. So, you have to show what they are. And I showed you what they are. I showed you the originals. So there's a fair report privilege. Other examples of privilege would include psychiatric privilege, right? So if I'm communicating to a psychotherapist and I'm defaming you to my psychotherapist as part of the session, doesn't count. If I'm talking to my lawyer and defaming you as I'm communicating to my lawyer, doesn't count. If I'm giving confession to my priest and I'm defaming you, doesn't count. So yeah, there's an example. If I'm talking to my wife and defaming you, doesn't count. Yeah, so those are examples of privileged context. Okay, so those are the basic elements of defamation. And then we get into the mental state elements aspect of it, because it's not strict liability. So if you are defaming a non-public person that is in a non-public context, then you have to prove negligence. If they're either a public person or if it's a matter of public concern, then you go to the higher standard of actual malice, in which we mean malice to the truth rather than the person. So what is negligence? So let's take the case of the ordinary person in most situations. So most situations are non-privileged, are the lower standard. So if you're gossiping about your friend to another friend, that would be a good example, right? They're a non-public person. It's not a matter of public concern. So you're just gossiping. So there you have to show at least negligence. So what is negligence? Well, then you're into a standard analysis about what does negligence look like. You have a duty of care. You breached the duty of care. There was approximate harm and some damage that occurred, right? So you have a duty to not tell lies about people. You have a duty to investigate to some degree, right? So you have to at least be negligent. So one might ask the question, was I at least negligent in my reporting? Even assuming I got the facts wrong, which is a whole other set of problems. So even assuming I made a false statement of fact to a third party in a non-privileged context, even assuming all that, was I negligent? And my argument would be, well, how can I be? I was basing everything I said based on the FBI's report. It's an official government document. So, how could I possibly be negligent? Because I'm relying on an official government document to make claims. So how could I be negligent, right? And then we also have the issue of public person, or we have the elevated standard for either public person or matter of public concern. So is this a public person? Quite possibly. Why? Because we know from the comments that he has a YouTube channel or had a YouTube channel, and it's even bigger than mine, apparently. So he might be a public person. He might have purposely injected himself into the public space. But even if he's not a public person, it's a matter of public concern. What would be the matter of public concern? The storming of the U.S. Capitol. Right? That's not a matter of private concern. That's a matter of public concern. So even if he's not a private person, even if he is a private person, it's a matter of public concern. So I would say we're probably under the elevated standard. So what is the elevated standard? Well, to have the elevated standard for public figure or public concern, you have to show what's called actual malice. Okay, well, what is actual malice? As I've said many times, in this context, we don't mean malice towards the person. It has nothing to do with hating the person or disliking them. It has nothing to do with your attitude towards the person. So the term malice here is a bit misleading, because when you hear malice, you think about hatred to the person. And that's not what it's talking about at all. It's talking about hatred to the truth. And so what does that mean? Well, it means, for example, that you said something knowing it to be false. So that's an example of you hating the truth, right? We're having or malice to the truth. I know this to be true, and I'm going to tell a lie. So I have malice to the truth, right? So I actually know, and I'm falsely reporting. Or recklessness, right? I had reckless disregard for the truth. So I had such a devil-may-care disposition that I didn't investigate to such a degree so basically the recklessness would pop up if I had reason to believe that this was not true. If I had counter evidence that was sufficiently reliable. So someone merely saying this is not true doesn't necessarily make recklessness, right? Because people can say anything. So it's not necessarily reckless because I have some information to the contrary, because that information might be crap. But it's an issue of the quality and quantity of the information. Is the information of sufficient quantity and sufficient quality that it should cause me pause before reporting on it to investigate further? And then maybe I investigate further and I ultimately conclude that the information I had originally was correct, in which case I'm not reckless, right? Even if it's false. So if I get sufficient information that causes me pause, but I do enough investigation, I'm like, no, I really think this is true, but I was wrong. Still not reckless. So yeah, that's basically the legal standards. So hopefully some of that was helpful in discussing what defamation does and does not look like. Yeah, just being at the Stop the Steal rally is enough to be mocked. It is enough to be mocked if you're inclined to mock it, so that would be fine. I love that the FBI watches the channel as well, as it seems they may have a supporter. Yeah, the FBI, the FBI screws up times. The FBI gets things wrong, and especially if we want to talk about the FBI's history. If we want to get into the history and start talking about Hoover and shit, then we can get into the dark days of history. But let's maybe not do that because it's a bit unfair to the FBI these days. But yeah, the FBI has definitely screwed up things from time to time. They've screwed up things in the modern era from time to time. So they're not perfect. They're not God. But, they're somewhat reliable. And so we can have some confidence in them, even if we also have some skepticism of them. Or at least that's what I think. Maybe you disagree. Maybe you think the FBI does nothing but tell lies, but that's not how I see it. I think the FBI is pretty much like every organization in the history of time. It's composed of people. At the end of the day, the FBI, like literally everything else, is just people. It's just people interacting. They're interacting for a particular purpose, with a particular mission, but at the end of the day, the FBI are people. And people are fallible. People screw up. So we shouldn't deify the FBI, but at the same time, I think the FBI, like most federal agencies for that matter, are composed of people who think that they're trying to do the right thing and are trying to do the right thing. And they're generally moral people. Even if they screw up, even if occasionally one of their agents goes completely crazy and starts being not that person. It happens. It happens. It would have to happen. The FBI is a big organization. The idea that the FBI would be the organization as big as it is, and they would never have anyone who, did a bad thing or was a bad person is ridiculous. Even though the FBI tries to investigate people for backgrounds, even if the FBI does a perfect job on their background check, people ultimately are fallible and people will fail. It's unavoidable. So yeah, it's okay to say, yeah, maybe the FBI screwed up. We already found one way they screwed up. We already did a video on them screwing up, or the DOJ screwing up. We pointed at them and said, haha, you screwed up. But I think that they're people trying to do a job. And I think that they're generally good at it. I think they're generally caring. I think they're generally patriotic. I think the FBI is generally good. Even if sometimes some members of it are not good, or sometimes it gets corrupt, or a whole bunch of things. Because those things are unavoidable. This is not a special FBI problem. This is a people problem. And people sometimes suck. Entrapment requires a refusal to commit a crime. Not exactly. I don't know if it actually requires refusal to commit a crime, but we can talk about we can talk about the short definition of entrapment. So I don't know if it actually requires you to refuse, but entrapment is when the police get you to do something you wouldn't otherwise do, get you to commit a crime you wouldn't otherwise commit. But for the FBI or the police enticing you or corrupting you, you wouldn't do that. So what entrapment is not is when the police pose as a prostitute and then you solicit the prostitute and they arrest you, because the police weren't enticing you to commit a crime. You were going to commit that crime no matter what the police did, right? The police are kind of irrelevant to this equation. You apparently were going to solicit a prostitute, and just so happened this one is a police officer, and you didn't know that, but that does not entrapment make. Entrapment is when the police do things to get you to commit crimes you wouldn't otherwise commit, except for the FBI or DOJ or the police themselves, essentially turning you into a criminal. So, and true cases of entrapment are relatively rare, but it does happen because, again, everyone's fallible, including police officers, and sometimes they screw up too. And yeah, entrapment does happen. It's fairly rare, but it happens sometimes. But them merely standing by and letting you commit crimes is not what entrapment looks like. The entrapment is them essentially overcoming your will in some way and getting you to commit a crime that you wouldn't otherwise commit. I'm not sure if you actually have to refuse. I mean, that would be helpful, obviously, as a defendant. It would be helpful if you can show a pattern of refusal. That would be great. That'd be helpful, but I'm not sure, strictly speaking, it's necessary. Yeah, many states' entrapment statutes explicitly state the police watching you commit a crime is not entrapment. It doesn't even make logical sense for it to be. The entrapment is from a theoretical position, and of course the exact legal definition is going to change from place to place. But the theoretical entrapment is the police cajole you, force you, bludgeon you in some way to commit a crime you wouldn't otherwise do. They overcome your will, essentially. So it wasn't really your decision. It's not merely manufacturing a crime. It is getting you to do stuff that you wouldn't otherwise do. So, yeah. So them merely standing by and watching does not qualify. No, it doesn't even make sense from a theoretical perspective. What about the federal government invited me to a federal building and protest there? Okay, great. That works. I have no problem with that. The President of the United States absolutely did that. Sure, no problem. The President of the United States for sure solicited people to go to the Capitol and protest. Yeah, no problem. And therefore what? Yeah. The President of the United States said, go to the Capitol and protest. Right. And therefore what? Yeah. No, that is not enter the building, disrupt the proceedings, commit crimes. It is none of those things. Dewangi says they can't lie if you ask. Yes, they can. The police can absolutely lie to you. Of course they can. Well, okay. In the hypothetical question, Michael says, can they say it's okay to cross the bridge when it's not and then arrest you? Probably not, no. That's no, because you're essentially asking for permission in that situation. And so I don't think that would work. No, I don't think the police could lie in that respect. I don't think they could tell you something is legally okay. No, they couldn't do that. So they can't lie in that respect. I don't think that would fly. But they can lie about a lot of things. They certainly can lie about evidence they have. They can lie about evidence. Yeah, we have a witness. We have DNA. We have records. It'd be so much easier if you confess. They can't manufacture evidence, though. That they can't do. So they can say they have evidence. They just can't like manufacture evidence and show you the fake evidence. They can pretend they have evidence. So I always like these boundary lines because they're so interesting sometimes on a legal level. So like the police officer could come into the interrogation room with a manila folder, and he could say, in this folder we have the DNA results and they prove that you're guilty. They can do that. What they can't do is open the folder and show you DNA test results. I know these boundaries seem a little bit weird, but they can't manufacture evidence. They can lie to you about evidence, but they can't manufacture it. So no, yeah, that doesn't work. I don't know why Nick has many fans. I guess maybe he's a good guy. I don't know. Yeah, facts. What are facts? Tell us facts. What are facts that we don't know? What are facts that we can correct? What is the record? When can we expect a series on BLM rioters that tried to storm the White House 3 months before the riots? That's a very good question, and because they stormed the White House, presumably there would be some records on that. So I probably should look into that, and I should also look into the ones on the if there were any indictments or arrests that came out of the federal courthouse in Seattle. I'm not aware of records relating to that, but presumably they exist. So yeah, the federal is a little bit easier than state records to dig up. So if there were arrests that matured out of the federal courthouse in Seattle or the White House, then I'd be happy to cover those too. That'd be fine. You know, I have no problem. I have no problem talking about Antifa and BLM. If there's stuff out there, I have no problem with that. That's fine by me. It's just an issue of getting it and getting the stuff and reporting on it. So that's fine by me. If you happen to know where I can find records easily, that'd be great. It'll save me time. So if you happen to know where I can find it, that'd be nice. I mean, I'll look when I have time, but time is a huge issue for me sometimes. May I suggest putting a link to your list of charges video these people face so followers can see what they're being charged with? Maybe that's a good idea. Guess who says if you want to hear a lawyer who's entertaining and actually knows what they're talking about, check out Emily D. Baker. Oof. I feel so unloved. I feel so unloved here. They can lie about facts, not law. That sounds right. They can lie about facts, but not law. That sounds right. Yeah. Brenda Lee Carpenter. There's a case where they're interviewing a murder suspect, and the mom of the suspect sent in a note for the kid saying, "Shut up until we get you a lawyer." Cop said, "This is a note from your mom. It says you should just tell us the truth and everything will be okay." Yeah, that sounds okay. Like a lie. That sounds okay. Off the top of my head. Capertano says, "What do you think about cops lying about the law itself to prevent you from doing something they don't like?" Oh, well, that I don't approve of either. The cops should not lie to say there's laws that don't exist. That is not cool. They shouldn't lie about the law. That's not the police's job. The police's job is to enforce the law. If they are sad at something you're doing that's not illegal, I don't know what to tell you. You can be sad, but piss off. That's not your role. Or if you want to go you can go talk to the city council or something. So if you want to go to the city council meeting and say we need a law about X, that's fine. That's fine. But if you're going to come to me and fake a law, I'm like, no, that's not cool. Floyd case starts Monday live. We'll cover it. I want to cover the Floyd case. I was having a little bit of trouble finding out about the Chauvin Floyd case in terms of what they're doing exactly. Are they live streaming that? That'd be nice. And even if they are, I don't know how that will work as a practical matter, because we're probably talking about a couple weeks, and I probably don't have the time to stream it for a couple weeks, because I do have a day job, and that's a problem, which I'm kind of blowing off right now, but that's another problem for another day. So I do want to cover the Floyd Chauvin case, because I think the testimony on the medical stuff is going to be fascinating. I mean, that's what it's all boiling down to, at least from a legal level. It's all boiling down to the medical testimony. What can the government prove and what can't they prove? What is the evidence? So that's where it's going to be really interesting. It'll be really interesting to evaluate it and see if it changed, because I've built a theoretical case in my mind, but what happens in the real world could be very, very different. So I've built, I've in my mind created a theoretical case, and in my theoretical case, I have theoretical witnesses, and these theoretical witnesses, I know what all their testimony would be, because it's my construct, right? And so evaluating the trial inside my own mind, it's like, here's what the result looks like. But of course, that's not reality. So it'll be interesting to see, for me in particular, how close the trial in my head looks to the reality. And it's really going to come down to the medical stuff at the end of the day. Yeah, it's a live stream on Long Climb Network. That's cool. So we'll have to figure out how to cover it. I'm not sure exactly how we're going to do that. But I want to. Because it's going to be all day, so we can't even wait till later in the day and then cover it. I don't know if I'll watch it in the background and then try to recap it. I'm not sure how we're going to do that, but I'm not going to cover jury selection. I'm not going to do that. I'll wait till the trial actually starts to deal with that. When you say medical, are you saying technology, the toxicology? Yeah. I'm saying all the medical stuff. Basically, what his actual cause of death was. Yeah, what actually killed him. Yeah, that's where the defense's case is going to be. I think that's the best thing for the defense, is what actually killed him. What was the drugs in his body? Was it a lethal amount? Did the drugs kill him? When did he die? That's a good question. So yeah, there's a lot of things there that are going to be really interesting in terms of cause of death. Can the government prove it beyond a reasonable doubt? At least in my mind's eye, they can. But we'll see what happens in reality. I'm curious how Bill Barr having Minnesota yanked the third-degree homicide deal with Chauvin will affect the case. It has no impact on the case one way or another. It has no impact on the case. I don't think third-degree murder works. We're doing felony murder here. So yeah, what we got is a felony murder. We're using felony assault. We're using a death that came from felony assault. So we have to basically prove two things. We have to prove the felony assault, and we have to prove the causality factor. I think proving the felony assault is easier. Chauvin did a lot of things that get you there, or at least to my mind they do. Putting a knee on the neck is a valid procedure, but it's a valid procedure when you do it this particular set of ways, and he wasn't doing it that particular set of ways, and he, was doing it much longer than the manual said. He was being actively warned by his fellow police officers. I don't really see liability for the other police officers. Chauvin's liability is a problem. I don't see the liability for the other officers in my view. So I don't see their liability. So I think they should be found not guilty. Because I don't really get to accessory. I don't buy it. But for Chauvin, yeah. It's like he was being actively warned. He was defying procedure. So somewhere in that 8.5 minutes, he went from just executing an arrest to intent. And I think you can get there. The toxology, what actually killed him though is going to be a problem. Can you prove the police enhanced his death. Now, in my own mind's eye, I think you can, but we again have to see what the reality looks like. Second-degree murder is a proper charge. The charge is proper under Minnesota law. The charge is proper under Minnesota law that they've levied. I'm not sure they can prove third-degree murder, but they can prove second because of how the trial is listed. Yeah, the third-degree murder doesn't really work because third-degree murder, the way the third-degree murder statute in Minnesota is written, it has to be it's essentially when you kill someone when you're not trying to kill that particular person, you're trying to kill someone else. So it's when someone third degree murder in Minnesota is you shoot into a crowd, someone dies. Yeah, that's third degree murder in Minnesota. You weren't trying to kill anyone in particular. Or yeah, you weren't trying to kill anyone in particular, but you killed somebody. That's third degree murder. The reason third degree murder doesn't work is because all of Chauvin's actions were very targeted to Floyd. So you can't get there. You can't get that sort of undifferentiated conduct because it's differentiated conduct. You know, third degree murder in this context and second degree murder in this context are kind of mutually exclusive. So, yeah, that's where we are. Yeah. So we'll see what the real case looks like in terms of the theoretical case. You know, the medical examiner had basically testified up to this point that if they found someone with that level of fentanyl in their body without more, would they be able to conclude that the fentanyl was the cause of death? Not that it was, but would that be a potentially valid conclusion? The medical examiner said yes to that. It's like, if I had someone with this level of fentanyl in their body without anything more, you know, then it would be a reasonable conclusion to draw that fentanyl was the cause of death. There might be other conclusions that you can draw, but it would be a reasonable conclusion to draw. And a lot of people have misinterpreted this statement from the medical examiner saying, oh, well, it's because of the video. No, that's not what the medical examiner is saying. The medical examiner said, yeah, in an isolated case, if this is all I had, if this is the only information I had, then yeah, I would make that conclusion. But the medical examiner had other information, not even about the video. And also, the video is perfectly valid other information, for that matter too, because it gives you more information. So it's not like that somehow poisons the well, to my mind. So yeah, I mean, you basically have to prove that as the defense lawyer, you essentially have to prove that Chauvin would die at exactly that instant without the police doing anything. And I'm like, good luck to that plan. So yeah, So third degree murder is like negligent homicide? No, it's more intentional because you fired into the crowd. There's nothing negligent about that. Yeah, third degree homicide is you fired into the crowd intentionally. You just weren't trying to kill anyone in particular. So yeah, it's not negligent homicide. That's a different charge. Third degree is the way it was written. It's about intent. It's just like you intentionally fired in the crowd, so there's nothing negligent about it. You just weren't trying to kill anyone in particular. Yeah, so you know. Yeah. It's a drive-by. Third degree murder is a drive-by statute. Yeah. Third degree murder is for drive-bys. That's what it's built for. You're firing into a group of people. You're not necessarily trying to kill anyone in particular, but someone dies. Yeah. Third degree murder is drive-by shootings. That's basically what it was built for. Is it depraved heart? No, not really. I don't think so. Not the way it's written. Yeah, so third degree murder doesn't work. Second degree murder works because somehow this is felony murder under Minnesota law because they don't have merger doctrine, which I find to be endlessly bizarre, but that's where we are. If one is threatened with a gun and the victim drops dead of a heart attack, did the gunman kill the victim? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you see a lot of felony murder cases like that and bank robberies and stuff like that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. if you go into a bank and with guns and say everyone drops the floor and someone has a heart attack, in a lot of states, that's murder. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily have to be from the gun that killed him. As long as you can show causality between the act and the result. So as long as you can show causality. So did the fact that the robbers entered the bank and said, everyone screamed with guns and said everyone dropped the floor, did that cause the heart attack? If so, then you have a problem. And the defense would have to show he was going to have a heart attack no matter what happened. So, good luck. Wasn't there alcohol, amphetamine, fentanyl, and cannabis in the system? Fentanyl, I know for sure. It wouldn't surprise me about anything else. Yeah, he definitely had a whole bunch of things in the system at the time. Yeah. And different states do this differently, by the way. So some states don't go that far. Some states don't have felony murder at all. Some states require it. Some states require the death to occur as a result of something that the offenders did. So in some states, there's an armed robbery in progress. At a convenience store. Someone comes into the store who has a concealed weapons permit. The guy with the concealed weapons permit shoots one of the bad guys. The bad guys flee. Now, the guy who shot him is obviously justified, so we're not talking about him. We're talking about the robbers. Are the robbers guilty of felony murder? And it depends. Some states say yes, and some states say no. Some states would say no because the death did not occur from anything the robbers themselves did. It's too detached. So no. And some states would say yes. They created the dangerous felony. There was someone might die. Someone did die. It's connected enough to what you did. I mean, it's not like this guy shot this guy for no particular reason, has some kind of causal connection there, right? So some states would say yes, and some states would say no. Some states require it to be more connected to what the violators themselves did. So, yeah. So causality in Chauvin's case, causality is where this is all boiling down to. For me, it's all boiling down to causality. Did the cops do something to aggravate his death? Did the cops aggravate his death? That's the key question. Did they aggravate? Did he die faster than he would have otherwise? If he was going to die from a fentanyl overdose 1 minute later, technically it doesn't matter, right? We've discussed that, right? It doesn't. If 1 second later, I mean, it's tough to prove, right? So proving that's a whole nother set of problems. But from a theoretical perspective, if he was going to die 1 second later than he did from fentanyl, and the police, by their actions, caused him to die 1 second sooner, that's murder. Now, how you prove that is a whole other set of problems. But from a theoretical standpoint, yeah. Yeah. Could the DA lower charges something like manslaughter? They've been charged with manslaughter, too. They've been charged with that, too. So, yeah, they've been charged with all those things. Are you reading the docs? I was getting a little late here. I will later today. I think I have it scheduled for 4. Yeah. In California, a brother who had already surrendered was sitting in the cops in handcuffs, was convicted of felony and murder for the cop shooting the other brother. See, there you go. Yeah. It's an inherently dangerous felony. Connected enough to what you did. Sure. Yeah. And yeah, and the fact that you're using the felony assault as the predicate for the felony murder is so bizarre. That's really, really bizarre. I couldn't believe it when I first saw this. Because like, how is this possible? You're using the felony assault as the predicate felony. And then I actually looked into it, and I was reading Supreme Court cases from Minnesota. I'm like, oh, Minnesota just doesn't have murder. So you can use the assault as the predicate felony for the felony murder. In like 47 states, that doesn't make any sense. But in Minnesota, apparently it makes sense. So, okay. That's weird. So, yeah. All right, I'm going to sign off now. I got work to do. If you're enjoying the stream, please remember to like it. Please remember to subscribe. For 99 cents, you can become a paid member and all the rest of it. Hope you guys are having a good day. Talk to you later. Bye.